What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with another J-drama soundtrack reaction. We're going to go back to the score for the first season of Hana Yori Dango, composed by Yamashita Kosuke. And as I think I've mentioned before, the soundtrack to the original season of the live-action show is also the soundtrack to the anime of Hana Yori Dango, which I've never seen, though with one stipulation. That is to say, there's a tune on this soundtrack that presumably was only used in the anime, meaning it's not featured in the live-action show. Now, it's a really good track, and it's called Aloof, which, I don't know this for certain, but it makes me suspect that it's used in relation to Domyoji, or Tsukasa Domyoji, one of the two main characters, because you eventually learn that he was raised and had a tough childhood. His mom was overbearing and cruel to him, and he became not withdrawn, because he's a very popular figure, and he sort of dominates and bullies his high school when we first meet him. But inside, we eventually learn he's got a lot of pain, and he's kind of an isolated person. So I'm suspecting that Aloof is used in the anime in relation to Domyoji, though I don't know that for certain. But it's a really good track, and at some point I will react to it, even though it doesn't have the same nostalgic quality to me as the rest of the soundtrack, because it just wasn't part of the live-action show. And by that same token, there's a tune that is in the live-action show, Season 1, which is one of my favorites, but it's not on the soundtrack. So, I don't know, maybe there was a bit of a compromise there. In any case, this time around, we're going to listen to Mysterious Chocolate, which is a very funny name. It's one of two tracks in the soundtrack that has this ominous, Dark Horizons type of feel. Something foul is afoot, and there are evil plots or evil schemes that are being set and unfolding. And in that regard, the other one that has that quality is called Glacial. And that makes a bit more sense, because Glacial is specifically used, I think, almost exclusively in relation to Madame Domyoji, Tsukasa Domyoji's overbearing mother, who again didn't treat him well, and who takes a pointed dislike to the other main character, Makino Tsukushi, and who does everything in her power to make Tsukushi's life miserable and to prevent her from dating her son, Tsukasa. And thus, the idea that she's an ice queen, glacial, it sort of fits. Mysterious Chocolate, I don't know what to make of, and maybe that one is also used in relation to the goings-on at the Domyoji estate, but it's specifically used in a few places in relation to Sakurako, a character in the first few episodes who initially presents as very friendly to Makino Tsukushi, but we eventually learn there's more going on there, and she might have some ulterior motives, and it's not quite clear what they are until she springs her trap, which is actually aimed more at Tsukasa, but Tsukushi ends up suffering because of it. So, I don't know, there's no specific scene in the live-action show which relates to chocolate that I can think of, although, of course, the shop that Tsukushi works at is like a sweet shop, like a confection shop. Maybe there's something there. But basically, this is a track I associate with Sakurako in terms of her secret motivations, which, again, at the beginning of the show, she's acting very kind and supportive toward Makino, but we eventually discover there's more to it than that, and she's actually a dangerous person. So, I don't know why it's called Mysterious Chocolate, but it is a very dramatic tune. I enjoy it. Let's give it a listen. This is from the original season of Hana Yori Dango's soundtrack, composed by Yamashita Kosuke, and it's called Mysterious Chocolate. dramatic, right? Ominous, definitely dark clouds on the horizon. I do think it is also used in relation to Madame Domyoji and the conspiracies she weaves, not only in relation to Makino, but also in relation to Tsukasa. And I'm also thinking of some scenes where Nishida, the family Domyoji's consigliere, like I'm not sure quite what his role is, but he's like the second in command for Madam President, and he's actually a very good guy, but he's forced to be part of Madam President's schemes on some occasions. But yes, I think it is also specifically used in relation to Sakurako and the unfolding storyline that she's involved in the first half of season 1. And I guess there's times after that where she's still relevant, but the first, I'd say 5 or 6 episodes it's a notable storyline. And especially those quiet moments, like the way it starts this piece, and the moments where it's not quite so grand and dramatic, but where it's softer and a bit more like mysteriously dangerous. Those are the parts I think of in relation to Sakurako. So it's a really cool tune. Again, I don't know why it's called Mysterious Chocolate. I don't think there's any scene in relation to her that someone's eating chocolate, so yeah, I don't quite know what to make of that. It could just be, a funny title that was chosen by Yamashita-san, but either way, I like its dangerous quality. And as I said, Glacial is very similar. Like it's kind of like the companion piece to this tune. So we'll listen to that one in the not too distant future. Let me know what you think of this, and I will see you next time. Peace.